Good morning. My name is Robert Makoka.
And I'm Nelisiwe Lamini.
I'm Novanda Madela.
We'll be talking about our lesson plan, right? So the topic that we chose is about substance abuse and its effect, because it's something that learners that face almost every day within their families, within their communities, and also within their friends, and also sometimes at school.
Exactly. And it's not just about knowing what substances are, but also making the right decision in their real life situations.
And that's why our lesson focuses on knowledge, skills, and values, not just theory.
So I'll be focusing on the introductory phase, right? So for the introduction, I thought instead of just telling the learners the topic, right, we should start with a scenario, give them a real life example so that they can have an idea of what the lesson is, what is going to be about.
Like something realistic, right?
Yes, like a learner being pressured by friends to try alcohol or drugs. And then I asked them, what would you do if you were in that situation? And what do you think is happening in that video or that picture,
That's good because it immediately gets them thinking and relating to the current situation that is currently happening around them in schools. It could be home, it could be anywhere, but it's related to them personally.
And it also helps us assess what they already know before we even start teaching.
Exactly. So instead of just giving information, right, we create a discussion, and that's why we are using an indirect teaching approach here.
And it links directly to real life because many learners struggle with peer pressure. It is well known that at a certain stage they have to deal with adolescents and everything. So it gets them real engaged with the topic because it's something they relate to in real life, such as adolescents and all those things.
Yes.
So moving to the teaching phase, the first activity focuses on knowledge. We need learners to understand what substances abuse really is.
Right, because some learners, they don't even realize that alcohol and cigarettes are forms of substance abuse. They think it's something that they do for fun, to make themselves happy, to fool around, to play around, but they really don't know that it is very dangerous in terms of their health and also of their mental health.
Of which is why here a teacher has to explain the concept clearly and give out examples that would make them relate more with the topic. They have to be engaged more, like referring to maybe an uncle next door and saying like, do you see how smoking cigarettes affects his life, how his daily basic are just changing a bit by bit, and that's how they get to really engage with the topic.
Yes.
And learners can also give their own example, so it becomes interactive.
Yes. So this is more of a direct teaching strategy because we are building a foundation whereby every learner they are actively participating in the lesson because they are all voicing out their ideas, their opinions, and also their examples, right?
Yes.
I think the most important part is the skill activity, of which is the role play, where they get to engage with certain characters. They have to watch certain shows to engage more with the character they are trying to act out as they are starting to find their ways in their ways of life.
Yes, because knowing is not enough. They must actually practice saying no.
So in terms of practicing saying no to these substances, right? So we give them like a scenario, like a friend offering drugs at a party. So giving them that scenario, we are teaching them on how to say no, teaching them that not only families can influence us into substance abuse, right? And also friends can lead us, can lead us into substance abuse. So it can start by saying, let's try this as a friend, like it's gonna make us feel in some type of ways, to feel happy. But that's how it begins, and then it goes on and on and on every day.
And then that's when they act out how they would respond to that situation. That's how they get to engage and enforce the role play part.
And that builds confidence, because in real life it's not easy to say no.
And also, we as a teachers, we observe them, right?
Yeah.
So it's an informal assessment that you are going to use in that situation. We give them a scenario, give them questions or something, and then we observe them. We call that an informal assessment, right? Because they are not writing down. We are just trying to assess their understanding and also their understanding based on the content that we are doing.
And this calls for the collaboration. Collaboration means like working together, right? So we use cooperative learning because they have to work together in groups. It can be in pairs, it can be in the groups of like 8, but it has to be a collaboration between the learners.
Yes.
And then our last activity focuses on the videos. And then our last activity focuses on values.
Like responsibility, teaching the learners on how to be responsible within their communities and also within their families, and also self-respect. So when we teach them about self-respect, it's all about saying no and also being aware of that alcohol, cigarettes, drugs, you name them, they are very dangerous in terms of your mental health and also your physical body, right?
Yeah. So instead of like telling them don't do drugs, we just ask them questions like, how can substance abuse your future? How can substance affect your future, your health, and everything around you, your family? Because the behavior tends to change as a person takes substance abuse. Yeah.
And that makes them reflect deeply.
And also, like, it becomes more of a personal, not just a lesson in a classroom, right? Because we are dealing with personal issues, we are dealing with real life issues that are happening in our daily lives every day. So it becomes more of a personal, more of a teaching moment for them, because we are teaching them to say no. We are teaching them to be aware of substance abuse. We are teaching them on how to take care of themselves, and also on how to help other people who are dealing with substance abuse.
And that is important. That's the most crucial part of life orientation, because we are developing a whole learner. We are developing a learner from her personal values, her personal characteristics, how he or she views the world on his own, trying to find her own fits.
Yes, and we also ask recap questions like, what is substance abuse? Why is it dangerous?
So, in conclusion, we don't just end the lesson, we
Right.
summarize everything, right?
Yes. So, like, as you said, you will be asking, why is it dangerous? What is substance abuse, and so on. So that helps us to check if the learning actually happened. So as a teacher, when we ask the question, what is substance abuse, and why is it dangerous? Because we are trying to understand, we are trying to assess the level of understanding from the learners. Did they get to understand what we were talking about, right? Did they get to know what is substance abuse, and also how to prevent themselves from the substance abuse? So it helps us to check if the learning actually happened. We're assessing their understanding, assessing their knowledge, right? By asking this kind of question: why is it dangerous? What is substance abuse? Mention forms of substance abuse, those kind of questions. We're just trying to assess the learners using it's more like a communicating session. They are not writing down, it's a communicating session, trying to check where do they lack, right?
Yes. And then we have to like give out an homework activity, right?
Yes.
We can give them a poster, right?
Exactly.
Yes, like creating a poster on how to make a post about awareness of substance abuse, yes, how to prevent yourself from substance abuse, how to get help, and also what are forms of substance abuse, because creating that post is to make people aware of substance abuse and also the learners to be aware.
Yeah.
So they design a poster about the danger of substance abuse, right?
Yes.
What are the negative effects of substance abuse? How does it affect other people? So those are the kind of things that are expected to be shown on the poster, right?
Yeah.
And also, yes, that's nice because it also allows creativity and also reinforces the message. It also encourages the learners to work together as groups and collaborate, it's all about cooperative learning, right? So it encourages creativity and also critical thinking, and also how to pass the message to other people, how to make other people aware.
So overall, our lesson doesn't just give information.
Yes.
It helps learners develop real life skills and then encourages them to make responsible decisions and about their health.
So overall, all about this lesson was about teaching them something that they can relate to, something some of their families go through, something that is always happening in their communities, sometimes at school, right? It was all about teaching them to make them aware of what is happening out there in terms of alcohol, in terms of drugs, in terms of cigarettes, right? So it helped them to develop real life skills on how to manage life out there when it comes to drugs. Yes.
Remember that scenario whereby a neighbor was smoking, and then there was a kid living next door, a teenager even, and then that kid was friends with the neighbor's kid. So growing up, the kid realized that his dad was actually thought that the dad was doing a cool thing. It is seen as a cool phrase by adolescents mostly. But then the kid ended up like influencing the neighbor's kid, the other kid that is not smoking, to like, can we just try this? I see my dad doing it all the time.
Yes,
so I think
because that is how it starts.
I feel like it's cool. Let's just do it to be cool at school and everything. And that's how it really gets to them as a point of peer pressure. What do you guys think about that?
So yeah, I feel like because it started from right. You see, because they imitate their parents, their friends, some people in the communities, right? Because the young kids, they believe that it's a good thing. You can feel you're on a different
it's
feeling.
done by the adults.
Yes, and then they'd be like, you know what, friend, let's try it. I saw my dad, he was feeling good, was in another level, so let's try it and see it. So that's how it started. And then the following day, you say, let's try it again. And then it goes on and on. It leads to being addicted, which we call an addict, right? So yes, so the overall of the assignment was to teach them about the responsible decisions about their health and also their physical bodies. So yes, so I think that is all for our lesson plan, right?
Yes, I think we've met the lesson outcomes, the lesson aim, and everything that has to do with the topic.
Yes.
I feel like we're good.
Yes, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.